When we first started the show, I really thought we were doing a show about building cars and motorcycles for people. It evolved into a show about people and their story. It really brought challenges in the early days.
Danny Koker has built an empire with counting cars, but not every ride has been smooth. Some employees didn't just leave. Some were shown the door for reasons that shocked even longtime fans. From shady deals to major letdowns, Danny finally breaks his silence on the 5 worst team members to ever walk through his garage doors. Danny Koker was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but spent most of his childhood in Detroit, Michigan, the heart of the American car industry. Growing up in Detroit meant that cars were part of everyday life. Muscle cars roared down the streets, and car shows happened often. For Danny, this environment wasn't just background noise. It shaped him. His father, Danny Koker Sr., had a big impact on his life. A talented musician who toured with famous groups like the Cathedral Quartet, he filled the house with music. But he was also a car lover, and that passion passed down to Danny at an early age. As a teenager, Danny spent most of his free time around cars, getting his hands dirty under the hood. He fixed up old vehicles and brought them back to life while other kids focused on video games or sports. His love for old-school muscle cars, choppers, and hot rods only grew stronger over the years. While his passion for cars started young, it would take years before he found his true calling. In the early 1990s, Danny moved to Las Vegas. Alongside his love for cars, he also had an interest in entertainment. He became a local TV personality known as Count Cool Rider, hosting a late-night horror movie segment where he dressed like a rock and roll vampire and introduced old horror films. Cheesy, over-the-top, and packed with personality, the show made him a small cult icon in Vegas. But while Count Cool Rider got laughs, Danny never stepped away from cars. He opened a custom shop called Count's Customs, originally to take care of his personal collection. Over time, people began to notice his one-of-a-kind builds. Danny didn't just restore cars, he transformed them, blending respect for the classics with bold, rebellious touches. Flame paint jobs, low-slung stances, and roaring engines became part of his signature. Word spread quickly in the Vegas scene, and soon celebrities, collectors, and car lovers began flocking to Count's Customs to get a piece of Danny's magic. He wasn't a trend follower, he made his own rules, and people respected that. Danny's reputation was building one car at a time, but fame was still far away until he got a phone call that would change everything. His big TV break came through another hit show, Porn Stars. Since Count's Customs was located not far from the famous gold and silver pawn shop, Danny began appearing on the show as an expert on cars and motorcycles. Whenever the Porn Stars team needed advice on a vehicle, they called in Danny. His knowledge, charm, and no-nonsense style made him a fan favorite, and producers quickly noticed. Soon, the idea for a spin-off was born, and in 2012, Counting Cars made its debut on the History Channel. The show followed Danny and his team at Count's Customs as they restored, customized, and brought old vehicles back to life. From the very first episode, Counting Cars stood out. It didn't rely on fake drama or forced storylines. Danny's love for cars was real, and it showed. Viewers connected with the passion, creativity, and personalities in the shop. Danny treated his team like family, and each episode felt like hanging out in the garage with close friends. By the 3rd season, the show had become one of the most popular automotive series on TV, with millions tuning in to see what Danny and his crew would build next. The cars were always impressive, but the heart of the show was the people, the jokes, the bonds, the tension, and the triumphs. The success of Counting Cars turned Danny into a household name. He wasn't just a car guy anymore. He was a TV star, businessman, and a symbol of old-school values in a fast-moving world. Still, he never let fame change him too much. He stayed close to his roots, both in music and in cars. He even expanded his brand by opening Count's Vamp Rock Bar and Grill, a Las Vegas music venue where he blended his two biggest loves, music and motorcycles. While juggling his businesses, he continued building custom cars, touring, and making appearances. Even with the spotlight shining brighter than ever, Danny stayed focused on what mattered most, building cool rides and staying true to his vision. With a team of trusted mechanics and artists, Counting Cars became something truly special. But success came with a price Danny never saw coming. Behind the cameras, problems were already beginning to surface that would test everything he had worked for. While counting cars looked smooth on TV, the reality inside Count's Customs was often far more complicated. Builds that seemed quick and easy on screen were, in real life, slow, detailed, and sometimes frustrating. A single car restoration could take weeks or even months, yet the show had to condense the process into just 30 minutes of television. The stress, pressure, and behind-the-scenes conflict became part of Danny's world, something fans never saw on screen. Parts need to be ordered, and some of them are rare while others take forever to arrive. The team has to take cars apart, fix what's broken, and sometimes even start over if something goes wrong. They also have to paint, polish, test the engine, and make sure everything runs the right way. All that work has to fit into a short episode. The TV crew films for days just to get enough footage, and then editors cut it all down to fit into one quick story. That means the audience never truly sees how much effort goes into each car. Danny Koker is very serious about the quality of every build. He does not let sloppy work slide. If the paint looks off, he sends it back. If the engine sounds strange, it has to be checked again. He wants every car to be perfect, and that adds even more pressure to the team. The crew has to meet real deadlines while also keeping the show entertaining, which is hard to balance. Some days, the team worked long hours just to keep up. That kind of pace wore people down. The pressure of TV production was tough, but it was nothing compared to what Fame would eventually do to the team. When the show started, Count's Customs was a small shop. The workers were like a close family. They laughed, teased each other, and loved cars. That feeling stayed strong for a while, but once the show took off, everything changed. The shop became famous overnight. Tourists from all over the world started showing up, hoping to see the shop, meet the crew, and take pictures. Some fans waited outside all day, while others knocked on the doors while the team was trying to work. At first, it felt nice to be loved, but over time, it became a problem. The shop wasn't just a business anymore. It was a tourist stop. The noise, the photos, and the questions slowed everything down. Fame also changed how some of the team acted. When the TV cameras started rolling, a few workers behaved differently. Some liked the spotlight too much, while others wanted more credit, or more money. Ego became a problem, and tension grew between co-workers who had once been close friends. Danny had to deal with all of it. He was the boss, the face of the show, and a builder with high standards. But now he also had to manage the pressure of TV production, fame, and growing business needs. It was a lot for one man to carry. As the shop's popularity grew, Danny opened other businesses, including a rock bar, branded merchandise, and public appearances. That added even more to his plate. Legal problems soon followed. A few former workers filed lawsuits, claiming they were owed money or treated unfairly. These legal battles added stress and distracted Danny from the shop. He also had to make sure new contracts were in place to protect his name and brand. What had once been a group of people building cars for fun now became a structured business where employees had to follow rules, sign papers, and act a certain way on camera. By season 3 or 4, the team was no longer the same. Some faces disappeared, some left quietly, and others were fired after arguments or drama. While the show didn't reveal much of this, fans noticed the changes. Danny stayed focused on the cars, always believing in doing things the right way. But even he had moments when the pressure weighed heavily on him. He was running a business, leading a team, keeping fans happy, and protecting the quality that made Count's Customs famous. Fame had changed everything, and not always for the better. Some of the people Danny trusted most ended up betraying him in ways that shocked even longtime fans. One of the biggest behind-the-scenes scandals in Counting Cars history came from someone most viewers never even saw on screen, Joseph Frontiera. Joseph worked as a company's bookkeeper, handling money, paying bills, managing payroll, and tracking business expenses. At first, everything seemed fine, and Joseph was trusted with a lot of responsibility. But over time, strange things started happening with the shop's finances. When Danny and his team looked deeper, they uncovered something serious. Joseph had stolen more than $75,000 from Count's Customs. The way he did it made things even worse. Joseph used company funds to pay for personal luxuries, including a down payment on a Range Rover. He also used the money to pay for airline tickets and personal travel. This wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. He knew exactly what he was doing, and the discovery stunned both Danny and fans who later learned of the betrayal. To pull it off, Joseph Frontiere even forged Danny Koker's signature. He created fake records to cover up what he had taken. When Danny and the team found out, they were furious. This wasn't just a small error or a slip-up. It was a betrayal. The money that could have gone into builds, payroll, or business needs was instead spent on luxury items by someone who was supposed to protect the shop's finances. In 2016, Counts Customs took legal action, filing a lawsuit not only against Joseph but also against the staffing agency that had placed him, Randstad USA. The shop claimed the agency had failed to properly check his background. The case was messy and went public, shocking fans when the details came out. By the time the news broke, Joseph was already gone from the show. In fact, he had disappeared from episode without explanation, no on-air drama, no farewell scene. He was simply gone. Now viewers knew why. He had left behind a trail of missing money and broken trust. After the lawsuit, Joseph vanished from the spotlight completely. He never spoke out publicly, and there were no major updates about him. As far as fans know, he has stayed off the grid, no social media, no interviews, no TV appearances. It was as if he disappeared after getting caught. His actions left a lasting impact on the shop. Danny became more careful about who he trusted behind the scenes, and the team tightened controls on money and paperwork. It was a hard lesson to learn. Joseph may not have turned wrenches or painted hot rods, but his theft caused just as much damage as a busted engine. For fans of counting cars, he remains one of the worst employees in the show's history, even if most never saw him on screen. But Joseph's theft wasn't the only financial problem Danny faced. The next employee on the list would cause even bigger headaches, though in a very different way. Scott Jones was one of the first faces fans saw when counting cars began. He was a shop manager and also helped with the books, working behind the scenes to keep things organized, budgets tight, and deadlines on track. While Danny was a creative force in the face of the show, Scott was the one who made sure business came first. From the very first season, viewers noticed Scott's strong personality. He was blunt, serious, and didn't hold back. His main job was to keep money from being wasted, and that often put him at odds with Danny. Danny had big dreams for builds and sometimes wanted to push the limits. Scott, however, was there to rein him in, reminding the crew of budgets, questioning costs, and keeping deadlines in focus. Their back and forth created tension on camera. Some fans found their clashes entertaining, while others thought it revealed a real divide between the two. Their different styles were clear in nearly every episode during the first 2 seasons. Then, suddenly, Scott was gone. After season 2, he disappeared from the show with no big farewell, no explanation. One day he was managing builds and crunching numbers, and the next he was nowhere to be seen. Fans quickly noticed and began asking questions. Rumors spread online. Some claimed he was fired for financial mismanagement, while others believed there was deeper conflict behind the scenes. None of those claims were ever proven, and the show never directly addressed his departure. The truth, according to later reports, was far simpler. Scott had moved to Tennessee for personal reasons. He wanted to be closer to his family, and the decision wasn't about money or drama but about life priorities. Sometimes stepping away has nothing to do with the job and everything to do with what matters most off camera. Since leaving the show, Scott has stayed busy. He now runs his own business, Koker's Extreme Automotive in Tennessee, and even appeared on Netflix's Swap Shop, another show about cars and collectibles. While he may no longer be part of counting cars, he continues to do what he loves, working with vehicles and keeping them running smoothly. Scott Jones may not have been a fan favorite, but he played an important role in the early days of the show. He was a tough voice of reason, the one who said no when everyone else said yes. His exit may have been quiet, but his time on the show left a lasting impression. Scott left for family reasons, but not everyone who disappeared from the show had such innocent motives. The next story involves someone who fans loved dearly, until they discovered what really happened. Rolly Sabo was one of the most beloved cast members on Counting Cars, appearing from seasons 2 through 6. He worked as a shop's lead detailer, making sure every car leaving Counts Customs looked flawless. But Rolly wasn't admired just for his work. He brought a unique personality to the show. With his thick Hungarian accent, big smile, and endless energy, Rolly stood out. He cracked jokes, danced around the shop, and kept spirits high during long work days. Fans adored his one-liners and goofy moments, and the crew respected his skills as perfectionist detailer. By season 4, he had become a fan favorite, celebrated on social media for his humor and dedication. But in 2017, something unexpected happened. Thousands of dollars worth of professional detailing equipment went missing from the shop. Soon after, Rowley was gone too. He disappeared from the show without warning or explanation. One week he was there, polishing cars and making jokes. The next, he was missing from the crew. No on-screen goodbye. No mention of what happened. Just silence. Later, word spread that the missing equipment may have been tied to Rowley. There were quiet whispers that he took the tools and never returned. Count's Customs never made an official public statement, but the timing of his exit and the theft raised questions. For fans, the sudden loss of Rowley was a shock. Many didn't believe he could be involved in something like that. Others were simply sad to see one of their favorite cast members vanish without closure. But Rowley didn't disappear entirely. In the years since his time on the show, he has stayed in Las Vegas and opened his own business, Rock and Rowley Custom Detailing. He continues to work with cars, focusing on the same high-quality detailing he was known for on Counting Cars. His business has a loyal following and keeps him close to the world he knows best. Rowley's missing equipment was just the beginning of Danny's trust issues with his crew. But the next departure would hurt even more because it involved losing one of the shop's most talented builders, Shannon Ekow. Shannon Ekow was never the loudest guy in the room. He didn't crack jokes like Rowley. He didn't argue on camera like some others. But when it came to building custom motorcycles, Shannon stood in a league of his own. He was calm, focused, and insanely talented. Every line he welded and every bike he touched carried his personal stamp of quality. He was one of the true artists in the shop. As the lead motorcycle builder on Counting Cars, Shannon helped shape some of the most iconic builds on the show. His work was clean, bold, and creative. He didn't rush. He didn't cut corners. He built bikes with soul, machines that looked just as good as they rode. Whether it was a low-slung chopper, a mean street cruiser, or a tribute build with deep meaning, Shannon gave it his all. He came across as a quiet type, but his passion for bikes came through loud and clear. Fans appreciated his steady hands and soft-spoken approach. While others grabbed the spotlight, Shannon was in the background making sure the job got done, and done right. From the early seasons of Counting Cars, Shannon was one of the most consistent members of the crew. He was always there, always building, and always turning out top-notch work. His style stood out in a world full of big personalities. He was the kind of craftsman who let the bikes do the talking. But as the show grew bigger, things started to shift. By season 7, fans began to notice Shannon was appearing less and less. His screen time dropped. Some episodes barely showed him at all. And by the next season, he was mostly gone. There was no big fight, no dramatic exit, no scene where Danny said goodbye or hinted at trouble. Shannon just slowly faded out of the spotlight. So what happened? From what's been shared by insiders and longtime viewers, the change came down to creative differences. As Counting Cars grew more popular, the show leaned harder into storytelling and drama, more arguments, more stage tension, more over-the-top moments. That helped boost ratings, but it didn't sit well with everyone, especially someone like Shannon. He had built his life around real work and true craftsmanship. He wasn't there to play a role. He wanted to build great bikes and stay out of the drama. As the cameras focused more on stories and less on builds, Shannon found himself less interested in being part of the show. His quiet style clashed with the fast-paced, TV-friendly world Counting Cars was turning into. And instead of complaining or causing a stir, Shannon made a different choice. He stepped away, quietly, just like he had always worked. There was no public statement, no blame, and no hard feelings that were made public. Shannon simply moved on, and he didn't stop building. Far from it. Today, Shannon Ekow is still very much active in the Las Vegas motorcycle scene. He continues to design and build bikes with the same care and skill he's always had. He may no longer be on screen, but his work hasn't slowed down. People in the custom world still know his name, and his bikes still turn heads. In many ways, Shannon represents a different kind of success. He didn't chase fame. He didn't change who he was to stay on camera. He stuck to what he loved, building beautiful machines with his own hands. And when the show no longer matched that mission, he walked away with quiet dignity. Not every departure from Counting Cars ended in lawsuits, stolen tools, or behind-the-scenes drama. Shannon's story is different. It's about staying true to your craft, even when the lights and cameras get in the way. Fans still talk about him. Some say the show lost something when he left, and they're probably right. Shannon brought balance. He brought class. And most of all, he brought real talent that didn't need loud words or wild stories. Shannon walked away with class and dignity, keeping his reputation intact. But our final story shows what happens when ego and creativity clash in the worst possible way. Mike Henry, better known to fans as Horny Mike, was impossible to miss. With his horned helmet, wild mohawks, and bold personality, he brought color, energy, and a lot of fun to Counting Cars. But Mike wasn't just a walking cartoon. He was an artist, a real one, with serious talent and a style all his own. He worked as a lead airbrush artist at Counts Customs, and his job was to turn cars, bikes, and helmets into one-of-a-kind masterpieces. While other crew members handled mechanics and bodywork, Mike brought the final magic touch. Flames, skulls, murals, metallic fades. His work could transform a simple car into something unforgettable. Mike had a background in custom paint and 3D sculpting before joining the shop, and that experience gave him a creative edge. Danny Koker quickly took notice and gave him room to express himself. For a long time, the partnership worked well. Mike's design stood out, and fans loved seeing what wild idea he would come up with next. He quickly became one of the most recognizable faces on the show. His outfits, voice, and art made him a fan favorite. He joked around, added personality, and brought big laughs in every episode. But underneath all the fun was a man deeply serious about his craft, often spending extra hours perfecting every detail. Still, working inside a business like Counts Customs and under the eye of television cameras was not always easy. Mike had strong opinions. His ideas were bold, sometimes a little too bold for what Danny had in mind. Over time, creative clashes started to happen. Mike wanted more freedom to push boundaries, while Danny, as a shop's owner, had to protect the brand and keep everything on message. This created a push and pull between two talented people who both cared about the work. Mike wanted to go big with color, texture, and crazy designs. Danny sometimes needed a cleaner, more classic look. They didn't always agree, and when you mix strong personalities, tension follows. On top of that, Mike started to feel the weight of production. TV deadlines are tight, and you can't always wait for inspiration. You have to deliver art on a schedule, and that's not how real creativity works. The pressure started to wear Mike down. The show needed fast turnarounds, but great airbrush work takes time. Blending shades, layering paint, getting the image just right, it all takes hours, sometimes days. As the seasons went on, Mike began to step back. His screen time dropped. He stopped appearing in every episode. And even when he did show up, his role seemed smaller. He still helped with big projects, but he wasn't always at the center of the action like before. Fans noticed a change. Many wondered if something had gone wrong. Some thought he had left the shop, but the truth was more complicated. Mike didn't leave in anger, and he didn't get fired. He just started focusing on his own path. Today, he runs his own business, Horny Mike Designs, where he creates custom airbrushed art, helmets, and accessories. He still works on bikes and cars, but does it under his own name and brand. He makes appearances at car shows, fan events, and even on other TV spots. He's still very active in the world of custom design. Even though he moved more into his own space, Mike still keeps a connection with Counts Customs. He's not fully gone. He still pops in for special projects and helps when needed. There's no bad blood, just a shift in focus. Mike Henry's story shows what happens when a true artist works inside a fast-moving machine like reality TV. He gave the show color, style, and unforgettable flair. But staying true to his art meant stepping back from the spotlight. Fans still remember his wild horns, bold lines, and bright energy. He helped shape Counting Cars in its best years, and his designs left a mark that's still hard to miss. From embezzlers to artists who needed space, these former employees shaped Counting Cars in ways fans won't forget. Some exits were messy, others quiet, but all left a mark.